So just going to do a little video about checking things up the mast. It's something you should do really as often as possible. I try and go up once a month or so. And one of the good things about being able to do that is steps. I mean, without steps, you're not going to be doing this that often because it's too much of a pain. That's why it's, I think, a good idea to have steps. Ours, you can see, are ones that stay out all the time. They can be a bit of a pain because you can get ropes wrapped around them. This string that's down around the side of them there is to try and stop that happening, but it's a limit to how effective that is, to be honest. We do get ropes wrapped around them every now and again. You work out systems to not do that. Leaving halyards slack when you're coming off the wind is what pushes them round. So I make sure that they're tight all the time until you're right on the wind, and then you can sort of get around that. But yeah, the idea of having steps, if you've got them, you go up the mast more often, and that's always a good thing because you can just check things out, and that's what we're going to do today. Have a little check out of everything up there. So to do that, for me, if at all possible, if I was going up just on a rope without steps, I would definitely make sure that I'm using the clutches here, that the rope's going through a clutch. So if anything happens down here and slips off the winch, you're still held by the clutch. It's a definite no-no to go up without going through a clutch. I think if you haven't got steps, and if you have got them, it's still a good idea. The only thing I've got at the top of the mast is the Yankee. You can see the Yankee sail is up at the moment. I'm not going to bother taking it all the way down, so I can use the clutch. So I use the mainsail halyard, which doesn't go through a clutch, but I'm on the steps. I'm actually hanging on myself, and that's just an extra safety line for me. If you do that, you could just have the harness that you use for bad weather if you're actually clipping yourself on, but it's much better to use a bosun's chair, which we've got back here, so we'll go and have a look at that. So this is the bosun's chair that I use. Just makes things more comfortable because you can sit down and rest basically on it. Sit your legs through. Comes up through your shoulders. Lovely. And it just clips on there. It does make things a lot easier than just having a chest harness, which is dead uncomfortable. And if you were going up without steps, I mean, it's a must really to have something like this. So the other thing we'll set up before I go up is I've got this soft bucket, which is quite good for bringing any tools up with you. I mean, the bosun's chair's got little pockets in it, so I can take bits and pieces up within that, but anything big, you're much better off sticking in this. And the way to get that up, rather than just pulling it up with you as you go, which is very difficult as you climb, or putting on a halyard and taking it up the mast because there's too much stuff in the way, is to put a loop round either the backstay, or we use the topping lift here, and pull it up on a halyard. So if I need any big bits of equipment, save you going up and down a lot, it's a really good idea to have that set up and ready to use. So Judy can just hoist up that to me with whatever in I need. So let's do it. So that's it. Let's get the main halyard on. Judy's just got 3 turns on the winch there, and it's just going to take up the slack as I go. It's a bit of a climb at the beginning here because you'll see I've taken this step off because I used to keep banging my head on it. So it's a bit of a scramble up onto the first one. There we go. So that's it. I basically just climb as Judy takes up the slack. I'll go straight to the top and then just check everything as we come back down. That's it. So we are now at the top. Okay, Di? Yep. So Judy's going to tighten that up and lock it off and put it around the cleats. Yep, if you lock that off. So I'll give you a quick look at what we've got up here. You can see it's all a bit strange and there's all this spiky stuff. That's actually things that I glued on top of here to stop birds perching on all this and pooping on the decks, which was happening a lot in one of the marinas we were at in Eastbourne. So that's why that looks a bit weird. But yeah, other than that, normal sort of stuff. I've got TV aerial there. My Windex is missing its red and green marks. So maybe have to try and get something to stick on the back of them. Everything else is looking okay though, so I'll just check over everything up here for chafe. I can see already that the Genoa halyard here is getting some chafing on there, so I'll have to do something about that, maybe shorten this rope up and put another eye in it. Judy's hauling on the spinnaker halyard there and just lifting my bucket up to me. Much easier way than trying to take it through all the rigging. It's just got the bits and pieces I need, a little bit more if you can. A little bit of dry lubricant, a few other bits and pieces. That's it, perfect, thank you. So I should tie that off there. Check that obviously all your pins are in okay, that you've got the cotter pins well seated and the split pin properly in. And I always have a look at where this bit of the swage here, just as the wire goes into it, have a feel of it. If things start to break in there, obviously that's the bit that's susceptible. It's normally the bottom end where the water goes in, so I'll have a look around all of those as well. But if they start to come away, you might feel a little bulge just in the wire there as that starts to happen. And our standing rigging is getting a little bit old now, so I'm being careful to check that. So let's see what we've got in our bucket. So while I'm up here, a little bit of PTFE dry lube. I'll stick this on anything that might need a little bit of help. I'll stick a little bit in the rollers here. Just have a little feel of those, make sure they're all okay. This is the one I'm on. We put a bit of dry lube on the track here. You see it sort of runs down quite nicely, but I'll do that in bits and pieces as I go down. Give that a little bit of a go. Check that my mousing's still okay on these bits. It's all looking good. Obviously the other nice thing about being at the top of the mast is this fantastic view you get. You get used to it. If you don't like going up mast, then just do it a few times and stay up here and stay there to look at the view. It's always worth doing. Get a bit of different perspective of what's around from up here. You can see these catamarans, how many solar panels they can get on their roofs. Very jealous.
Coming down, Judy just has a couple of wraps around the winch in case I slip, and locks off when I'm ready to stop.
Okay, keep going.
Here it's to check the spreader. We always like Judy out of the way before I work in case I drop something. The deck lights have been temperamental, so I want to check the connections, and even with Judy out of the way, I don't want to drop things.
Now this is always the worrying bit, where you've got something tricky like this that if it falls it's definitely going to go in the water and you're never going to get back again. Something springy like this is the worst. So wish me luck. Go on, you bugger. Hurrah! It's in. Yeah. Success. They work.
Just a clean of the moss on the undersides of the cross trees then, a hangover from life in higher, damper latitudes. Hopefully not a problem from now on.